The vain self-flatteries of the sinner. Psalm chapter 36, verse 2. For he that flattereth himself in his own eyes, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. In the foregoing verse, David says that the transgression of the wicked said within his heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes. That is, when he saw that the wicked went on in sin, in an allowed way of wickedness, it convinced him that he was not afraid of those terrible judgments, and of that wrath with which God had threatened sinners. If he were afraid of these, he could never go on so securely in sin as he doth. In our text, he gives the reason why the wicked did not fear. It was a strange thing that men, who enjoyed such light as they did in the land of Israel, who read and heard those many awful threatenings which were written in the book of the law, should not be afraid to go on in sin. But saith the psalmist, they flatter themselves in their own eyes. They have something or other which they make a foundation of encouragement, whereby they persuade themselves that they shall escape those judgments, and that makes them put far away the evil day. In this manner he proceeds, until his iniquity be found to be hateful, that is, until he finds by experience that it is a more dreadful thing to sin against God and break his holy commands than he imagined. He thinks sin to be sweet, and hides it as a sweet morsel under his tongue. He loves it and flatters himself in it, till at length he finds by experience that it is bitter as gall and wormwood. Though he thinks the commission of sin to be lovely, yet he will find the fruit of it to be hateful, and what he cannot endure. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 32. At last it will bite like a serpent and sting like an adder. Here observe, 1. The subject spoken of is the wicked man, of whom the psalmist had been speaking in the foregoing verse. 2. His action in flattering himself in his own eyes, as in he makes himself and his case to appear to himself, or in his own eyes, better than it is. 3. How long he continues so to do, until his iniquity be found to be hateful, which may be taken for his sin itself. The wicked will see how odious sin is to God, when he shall feel the effects of his hatred, and how hateful to angels and saints, or rather the cause is here put for the effect, the tree for its fruit, and he will find his iniquity to be hateful, as he will find the hatefulness and feel the terribleness of the fruit of his iniquity. Doctrine. Wicked men generally flatter themselves with hopes of escaping punishment, till it actually comes upon them. There are but few sinners who despair, who give up the cause and conclude with themselves that they shall go to hell. Yet there are but few who do not go to hell. It is to be feared that men go to hell every day out of this country, yet very few of them suffer themselves to believe that they are in any great danger of that punishment. They go on sinning and traveling in the direct road to the pit, yet by one mean or other they persuade themselves that they shall never fall into it. In my present discourse I shall, 1. Mention some things in confirmation of the doctrine that sinners flatter themselves with the hope of impunity. 2. Mention some of the various ways wherein sinners flatter themselves in that hope. 3. Show that sinners generally go on flattering themselves till punishment actually overtakes them. 1. I am to mention some things in confirmation of the doctrine that sinners flatter themselves with the hope of future impunity. 1. We are so taught in the Word of God. Beside our text you may see Deuteronomy chapter 29, verses 18 and 19. Lest there should be among you man or woman or family or tribe, whose heart turneth away this day from the Lord our God, lest there should be among you a root that beareth gall and wormwood. And it come to pass, when he heareth the words of this curse, that he bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of mine heart, to add drunkenness to thirst. Where it is supposed that they whose hearts turn away from God, and are roots that bear gall and wormwood, generally bless themselves in their hearts, saying, We shall have peace. See also Psalm chapter 49, verses 17 and 18. When he dieth, he shall carry nothing away. His glory shall not descend after him, though while he lived, he blessed his soul. And Psalm chapter 50, 21. These things thou hast done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such a one as thyself, but I will reprove thee, and set them in order before thee. 2. It is very evident that sinners flatter themselves that they shall escape punishment by this, that otherwise they would be in dreadful and continual distress. Otherwise, as long as they are in sin, they could never live and go about so cheerfully as they now do. Their lives would be filled with sorrow and mourning, and they would be in continual uneasiness and distress, as much as those that are exercised with some violent pain of body. But it is evident that it is not in fact so. It is apparent that men are careless and secure, that they are not much concerned about future punishment, and that they cheerfully pursue their business and recreations. Therefore they undoubtedly flatter themselves that they shall not be eternally miserable in hell, as they are threatened in the Word of God. 3. It is evident that they flatter themselves with hopes that they shall escape punishment, as otherwise they would certainly be restrained, at least, from many of the sins in which they now live. They would not proceed in wilful courses of sin. The transgression of the wicked convinced the psalmist, and is enough to convince everyone, that there is no fear of God before his eyes, and that he flatters himself in his own eyes. It would be impossible for men allowedly, from day to day, to do those very things which they know are threatened with everlasting destruction. If they did not some way encourage themselves, they should nevertheless escape that destruction. 2. I shall mention some of the various ways wherein sinners flatter themselves in their own eyes. 1. Some flatter themselves with a secret hope that there is no such thing as another world. They hear a great deal of preaching, and a great deal of talk about hell and about the eternal judgment, but those things do not seem to be real. They never saw anything of them. They never saw hell, never saw the devils and damned spirits, and therefore are ready to say with themselves, How do I know that there is any such thing as another world? When the beasts die, there is an end of them. And how do I know but that it will be so with me? Perhaps all these things are nothing but the inventions of men, nothing but cunningly devised fables. Such thoughts are apt to rise in the minds of sinners, and the devil sets in to enforce them. Such thoughts are an ease to them, therefore they wish they were true, and that makes them more ready to think that they are indeed true, so that they are hardened in the way of sin by infidelity and atheistical thoughts. Psalm chapter 14, verse 1. The fool hath said in his heart, There is no God. Psalm chapter 94, verses 6 and 7. They slay the widow and the stranger, and murder the fatherless. Yet they say, The Lord shall not see, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. 2. Some flatter themselves that death is a great way off, and that they shall hereafter have much opportunity to seek salvation. And they think if they earnestly seek it, though it be a great while hence, they shall obtain. Although they see no reason to conclude that they shall live long, and perhaps they do not positively conclude that they shall, yet it doth not come into their minds that their lives are really uncertain, and that it is doubtful whether they will live another year. Such a thought as this doth not take any hold of them, and although they do not absolutely determine that they shall live to old age or to middle age, yet they secretly flatter themselves with such an imagination. They are disposed to believe so, and do so far believe it, that they act upon it and run the venture of it. Men will believe that things will be as they choose to have them, without reason, and sometimes without the appearance of reason, as it is most apparent in this case. Psalm chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is, that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names.